wrote an essay called Why I Am Not a Progressive, where I was pushing back against the recent UN report, which said no one is safe.
Yeah.
I know, it's like, well, we're all going to die, like all of us. And I was pushing back against it because you kind of is like, that is the opposite mentality of how you deal with any crisis. The way you deal with any crisis or any threat is we can do it. That's the only thing that we know that works. The idea that, oh my God, we're all going to die, that's the opposite. Nobody, why bother if you think everybody's going to die? So that alone is a shift, I feel like, in my generation. I mean, I grew up with the heroes were Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and we might, or even the socialist revolutionaries who I have significant concerns with, but their attitude was not, we're all going to die. It was not, no one is safe. The attitude was, we can do it. Now, we might not agree with their utopian projects in many situations, but that's a real shift, I think, in the last 20 years, is this shift away.
Well, and isn't it a funny thing that shift has taken place? Well, things have got so dramatically better.
Yeah.
I mean, the degree to which we've been able to, as a species, to eradicate poverty essentially all throughout the world, except for when it's caused by political stupidity, is absolutely beyond comprehension.
Right.
And a lot of that's taken place in the last 15 years. And the speed at which that is occurring appears to be accelerating.
Right. And so the anxiety is coming from Europeans, let's say, and elites in the United States and Canada, who are saying, we don't know our place in the world. We used to be at the top of the pecking order, and now China is. Right? And the United States isn't so sure where it stands, but you kind of go, it's hard not to see. For me, I see that as the connection, is that it's like really the rise of China, the eclipsing of Europe's power. And so why does Europe elevate Greta Thunberg? A child saying it is not, because they're insecure about their place in the world. They're looking to.
Well, and they think they're also wrestling with something we all are going to wrestle with, is like, well, what do we do with our prosperity? Like, we're not scrabbling around in the dirt anymore, and thank God for that, because, our kids all died and it was really hard. And so now we can sit back and think, okay, well, what is it we're up to? Well, we don't know exactly what to do with all this. We should eat a bunch. That's kind of been part of the solution for the last 40 years. Eat more. And fair enough, God, wouldn't it take us like 3 generations to adapt to a surplus of food? When has that ever been a possibility? And so we're waking up in some ways, trying to figure out what to do with this.
I mean, Europe could have had the attitude is that now we get to help Africa become rich. Now Africa gets to become rich, and in the process, they get to have parks with wildlife. They get to have both. That it's actually not a trade-off. They get to have cities, and they get to liberate their women, and gays and lesbians can be free in big African cities as opposed to being persecuted in places like Uganda. Like, that could have been a project. In fact, for a minute there, it seemed like it was going to be. You might remember Bono had this program called Make Poverty History in the early 2000s. It was this idea that we're going to forgive Jubilee. We're going to forgive the debts of the poor countries, and Europe can become developed.
Well, and part of the reason.
Africa can become developed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Europe too, eh?
Yeah.